Hello, digital warriors, and welcome back to the Forge of Unicorn podcast. Today we have another special guest, not an investor, but a CEO, Adrienne Salvà. Adrienne is the appointed CEO of WebInterpret. WebInterpret is a pioneering AI-driven cross-border e-commerce. And the journey that Adrienne will share with us is absolutely amazing because his company have a global market that is very broader. And Adriana was becoming CEO with a story that I want himself to introduce to us. And the story beyond this company is a company that is a SaaS platform that is generating 300 plus millions in client sales. So it's something big. Without further ado, I want to welcome Adrienne. Adrienne, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Likewise, thank you, Michele, for the invitation today. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure for us and for our listeners because when we have a CEO of a company like yours, especially a software company that has a SaaS model, it's always intriguing to understand how you are dealing with the digital disruption, with the merging of AI, with the absence of standards in our landscape. But before jumping into the topic of today's discussion, I would love you to introduce yourselves, especially your amazing story of how you became a CEO of WebInterpret.
Sure. So I'll try to be short. Basically, straight after my scholarship, I founded a company straight after, right? So I never really worked in a company before. And so the first business I launched was a parcel broker business. And what we were offering really was shipping services for online retailers. And we were helping them to get a better shipping costs. So they were managing their shipping internationally. And so over the years, as we developed the business, we went through a couple of investment rounds. And at a certain point of time, I met the founder of WebInterpret. Back then, I met him in a very informal way. It was over a weekend, actually. It was an introduction through a friend over the river. And I wouldn't realize back then this was a turning point in my life. We started to work together. The relationship worked well, and we decided to merge my company with WebInterpret and create a joint logistics offering. Over the year, things developed, and the second key date for me was 2020. It was a time for WebInterpret to evolve. There were two products in the company, one which was mature and profitable, one which was growing and not profitable, eating all the profit from the profitable activity. So we decided to carve out those two activities, do an LBO, leverage buyout, with the profitable activity, and again, carve out the second business. The two founders left to that second business and are trying to redevelop that activity. As far as I'm concerned, together with my business partner, we took over the management of WebInterpret and manage it under an LBO with all the constraints it has. And later during the podcast, probably we will cover the challenge of cultural shift, because moving from a growth company under venture type of investment toward a culture of profitability-led business is very, very different. So I'd be happy to cover that later.
Yes, absolutely. And it's amazing your sliding door event in Cross of the River. So to let you understand the probability of this encounter that you had, in the past, we had an interview with a guy, Ron Ondechek, that is doing a CEO succession. And to create a pipeline that is able to provide a company with the right CEO is screening with a behavioral process from Stanford University over 4,000 CEOs.
Yeah.
So the probability that you have met your sparring partner now in front of the river was really, really low. And this indeed was a moment. And the other moment, I guess, it was when you started to move the culture of your company from venture based to profitable based. And especially because you have a buyout and part of the company went in a different direction, I guess for the people inside your company was a sort of emotional trauma. So you have to take care of the people, you have to evolve the company at the same time. You had, as a CEO, a pretty big cultural challenge in front of you. How was it? Was it scary? What is easy to handle? How did you manage all this social tissue that typically is passing always hidden under the rug in a typical evolution of a company?
I would say it was difficult for the first 2 years, especially that when you come after founders, there is generally a strong leadership coming from founders. And sometimes, at least in our case, the company was not, let's say, as structured as it is now. So it was harder, let's say, to take over after, again, that strong leadership. Plus, when a company is being founded, there is generally an emotional attachment between the founders and their people. There is a very strong connection. There isn't such a strong mid-management. So the first 2 years were difficult, and we were trying to be as clear as possible with the people at WebInterpret, re-explaining the project. Some left, some that were not on board with the project had to go, and it was better for them and better for the company. We kept the one that were into the new project, and we tried to recruit people that were fitting where we were going, plus fitting the new culture and the new management style. It took about 2 years. It was painful at the beginning, but now we have smoothly transitioned from an organization, like I said, fully founder-led to an organization that is multi-layers with a strong mid-management in between, and which is less reliant on one person or two people.
Thank you, Adrian. I ask you this question because a lot of time people are underestimated the consequences of emotional trauma. And when you need to shift the culture of a company, management has a paramount role because they are the role model of the company and they have to keep care of the people inside the company. If we ignore the emotional trauma and the emotions that are flowing in the company, a lot of time I see leaders that they get backfire from their own people. But this process that seems to be very painful is paramount to the evolution process because, as you said, somebody will stay, somebody will go, but who stays in the company, typically they are really aligned with the new mission of the company. How did you help them to realize that this is the new mission, this is the new purpose of WebInterpret? Did you do something specific?
The key is communication and transparency. If you are transparent with your people, if you communicate well with them, and if you are genuine and honest, they give it back to you. What I've learned is trying to be unclear, trying to use complicated messages, trying to have hidden agenda generally do not work. So what I really try to do with the people in the company is to be as transparent as possible, sharing the numbers when they are good, when they are bad as well, explaining our decision, justifying our choices. Sometimes we have to make hard decisions because again, we are being profitability led, but we explain it. And because we are working with intelligent people, they understand once we take a decision. And generally they tend to follow because again, they understand through that communication flow and that transparency.
I love the point that it recalls to me the book of Radical Candor and also the Anatomy of Peace, that you need to go in war without bringing the heart with you, because otherwise you will take emotional decisions instead of factual decisions. I like it. And I ask you this because the next question that I have in mind, especially for a CEO of a SaaS company, is the market is very tough, especially now with the AI revolution. I want to call it a revolution, and then we will see if it is a revolution, an involution, or a bubble. But for the moment, let's call it AI revolution. And the problem of software, especially in our field, is that we don't have a standard. Nobody knows how good software looks like. And so, as a CEO, with this awareness that nobody knows how good software is built or it looks like, how was difficult doing this cultural shift and also helping the company to evolve the problem? That was a mission impossible, or was something that you found a recipe to crack the code?
So I would say it is generally a difficult problem. And it is even more difficult for a profile like me because I am not technical in my scholarship per se. So I would say the successful response is in people. Why am I saying that? Indeed, I completely agree with you. There is no norms or very few. And we see that very often on a day-to-day. Every developer or many developers thinks that we should reinvent the wheel, and that will be faster and than trying to understand how a tool works and try to adapt his or her processes to the existing tool. And there is this vicious cycle around, reinventing, recreating as people come and go. What we are trying to do here is to prevent from that, is to have a very strong technical leadership. And again, for someone like me, I need to make sure that I'm partnering up with people I can trust from a technical standpoint and people that are competent. And luckily at WebInterpret, we have those people. We have a very strong technical leadership, which are able to coach developers and that are able to unify as much as possible our internal procedure through some sort of coaching, code review before releases, for example. So in short, I would really say the key at WebInterpret is having the right people so they are able to address that issue.
I like it, and I'm thinking something that lately is emerging from a lot of interviews I'm doing, that in the market there is now the new need of pairing investors with advisors that are technical advisors, not anymore merely financial advisors, but also to help organization with the new concept of a not executive director, a technical not executive director that typically pairs with the CEO or with the CTO to navigate the super fast evolving IT landscape. In WebInterpret, do you have this leadership embedded in the team, embedded in the leadership as an head? Which kind of setup were you able to implement to have this kind of leadership in-house?
The way we are structured at WebInterpret, from a technical standpoint, we have a technical director, which is like a CTO in a way, which has development managers reporting into him. And they are dotted lines, as we call it in English, with technical leaders, right? Tech lead, as we call it. And this group, tech leads and engineering managers, are really steering the technical decision across the companies.
I see it. And this is indeed a very good setup because you have also a leadership that is technical and puts the skin in the game, coaching them, showcasing the role model. Now I see how you have navigated a lot of this turbulence in the market in the new position of WebInterpret. I love it. And this also recalls me to the old times of Formula One or MotoGP, where indeed engineers, drivers, all the development team, all the research and development people, they were working together to understand how to improve the performance of the system. And this back then was a shocking moment for me because in this kind of field, the stress, the pressure that they are under for all the season is absolutely insane. But they don't suffer about burnout, disengagement. They are always happy. They are always laughing, always pranking each other with a camera, that spirit that is really inspiring to see. And so often I don't see in corporation, but I never saw them tired. I remember my brother working there that was indeed physically tired, but it was always passionate, full of energy. In IT, I don't see that many companies that have this kind of attitude. But in the companies that have implemented technical leadership that puts the skin in the game, like you have just described, I see teams a lot more happy. Is this the case also in WebInterpret? And it is this the recipe how you have dealt with the emotional trauma of putting a culture in a different direction, or is something different?
So I would respond to that point in multiple aspects. So like I said a bit earlier, for us, and I really believe in individuals and in people, we have a mission, we have a goal as a company. It doesn't fit everybody, right? And so to make sure that we have a right technical setup and a right technical team, the step one in the journey is to have the right recruitment. We spend a lot of time recruiting people. We take time to make sure we have the right person joining. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Recruitment is very hard. And we don't hesitate to part ways in case it doesn't work, because we want to make sure people that are with us and are here to stay and are here to be empowered and satisfied. So I would say that really the first point is to be successful in the recruitment. The second point that we pay attention to is the investment we are doing in our team, especially in our technical leadership. Our technical leadership is with us for many, many years, which means probably that they are in a way satisfied with working here. We try to invest as much as possible in training, and we try to create a so-called talent density, because I believe a lot in the fact that top performing people stay in an organization if they are pairing and working with other top performing people. So we are trying to create that talent density within our mean, of course, because we are not Google, we are not Amazon. So we try to do our best in that area. And the last element is to create, I would say, the right space for engineers and developers, and even for teams in general, to be happy and satisfied at work. We are trying to be as flexible as possible. We are listening to our people, caring for them, organizing events for people to be working together. So we are really building, trying to build a strong company culture, so people are satisfied here.
I love it. And I see the French DNA traits. and, and I have to tell you this. I have a person in France that I love, Laurent Bossavy. That was the guy that started to spread out, starting from Paris, the concept of the coding dojo and the code retreats. And what you just propose as a reply, showcasing that the hiring process is so paramount for you because you want to pair A player with other A players, is indeed the typical stuff that we observe in companies that are healthy, So they spend a lot of time to recruit the right individuals with mindset, with culture, with alignment to your purpose as a company. And then they help them to grow as crafters, as software engineers, by doing, with training, with corporation guilds, let's call, or community of practice, as I prefer to call them. And everything started from this route of craftsmanship and coding dojo that started in Europe, indeed, in Paris, long, long time ago. So I love it. Yeah, yeah. If Lorena will ever listen to this podcast, Lorena, we love you because you started something very big. Good, good. And yeah, it's intriguing how you are doing it, because I guess this is something that prevents you to have the problem of the disengagement and burnout. Because if you pair people that are a player with other a player in front of a good challenge and the right environment, why they should be burnout. So it resembled to me the recipe that I was witnessing in Ferrari F1 with all the pit crew working like crazy, but nobody was ever tired or stressed. So it's amazing.
Well, if I may, Michele, on that point, I think there is an element of stress, obviously, because of the nature of the market. The market is very volatile. In our type of industry, we are not yet too big to fail, and we have that in our minds. So we constantly try to reinvent ourselves, which means, constantly being, I would say, under stress in a way, but there is a positive stress, and it is linked to the passion, I would say, you are bringing into work. We are lucky enough to work on interesting challenges. So even though there is an element of stress, I tend to believe this is a positive stress.
Yes, and the player, they need stress. So if I put my athletes that I'm doing judo and jiu-jitsu with them in front of a boring competition, there is nothing worse, because they will start to be disengaged, they will start to be bored, and they will drop the judoji on the tatami and will leave, because there is no challenge, there is no spirit of competition, there is no growth without a positive stress. So I totally believe that a component of growth of a company needs to be a positive stress environment, where you have a challenge that is compared to your skill set and stretch you a bit to grow. And stretch is continuous. And with a team that supports you, where you have the psychological safety, then you have bingo, because you have the condition, you have the environment, and so you grow gradually in an environment that provides you everything. I like the picture that we are drawing on the canvas, because it's indeed the picture of a company that is an healthy place where growth comes from a genuine environment. But I guess this is something that you have discovered by doing. Because also what I love is that you, in a very humble way, you say, I'm not a technical guy. I see a lot of technical guys that they come from an academic pedigree of background, and they believe that they know how to create a proper software company. Your humbleness probably help you to discover what is working and what it isn't. I'm wrong here?
No, I think you're right. One of the key elements, I would say, in WebInterpret success, and this is visible as well in the leadership of WebInterpret, is an ability to reinvent ourselves. I'm still young, right? I'm 35 years old. I don't know everything, and I think that's a strength, because once you reach the point where you believe that you know everything, that's where generally positive output doesn't necessarily come. So the company has in its DNA a critical thinking, and I myself, as well as the leadership of the company, has a critical thinking. We are not afraid to reinvent ourselves, to say we're wrong. And this comes from probably our history. I will tell you the very early history of WebInterpret. We started as a telecommunication technology. So really the first product we released was, you are Italian, I'm French, you speak in Italian. The technology was translating that on teleconference system. And I was listening what you tell me in Italian, in French, and vice versa. 3, 4, 5 years after, a lot of cash was burnt. There was no market. And the question that was asked by the founder is, should we close the business? And the founders, they said, hey, before doing that, let's adjust the technology a little to e-commerce. Let's see if that works. And if that works, then happy day. If not, we'll close the business. And a year or two later, the company moved from a 10 people company to a 200 plus people company. So reinventing ourselves, venturing into areas where we don't really know is part of our history and part of our DNA. So, yeah.
I love the story about how you pivot from one product that was, let me say, unsuccessful because it wasn't hitting the market to use the same technology but in another market and was absolutely successful. And this is another demonstration about what humbleness and open mind it brings to the picture. I love it. And I guess also that on the software side, you have done probably some pivot of the culture, of the way of working. You have changed how you build software in WebInterpret from when you join it, I believe. Is it true?
Yeah. Yes. So we haven't been through major digital transformation per se, because we are a tech company in essence. We started as a startup. We moved into a scale-up phase. Now we are more in a matured phase. So all the DevOps transformation, agile ways of working, etc., were always really part of our day-to-day. What I find interesting, though, with the AI transformation is that this is for us the real first transformation we are experiencing. Before we were working the same way as other tech companies were working, and now we have to move into injecting AI into our day-to-day, and that is difficult, even for us that we are quite agile in a way. The why is yet hard to say because we don't have yet sufficient time to look back at what we did right and what we did wrong. But I see a few things. People are used to work in a certain way. And, to change that isn't necessarily easy. Probably new generation will adopt AI much, much easier. But I really believe in a way, people may be afraid of their job in some area. And that probably is slowing down the adoption of AI. And what we are trying to do is to explain to the people that AI could be a positive output. It makes the work better, it makes the work faster, and it allows our people to focus on higher output, higher quality type of work. Last month, our tech team, for instance, they started to implement some AI code generated through the Claude technology, Claude model, let's say. And it allowed to reduce by 50% the estimated time to implement it. So the gain was significant. And what was interesting to hear is that the code that was produced by the LLM model was sort of, non-creative sort of code. And so through that, developers are able to focus more on creative code, what really create values, and not maintenance code or leap fixing code or things like that. So that's where we are really trying to that's the angle we are trying to adopt with that transformation. But to be transparent, we are not there yet. We still need some time to implement it successfully.
What you just described is indeed the picture that perfectly describes the market situation. So your journey is indeed on the forefront of this AI revolution. And as I said at the beginning, let's see if it is revolution, involution, or bubble. Because what I'm observing since I'm experimenting with AI 2 years ago is the market is divided in two factions. The AI enthusiasts, that I would like to call them AI sales team, that they are preaching AI can do everything from the toothbrush to the dishwasher to creating the code with vibe coding. And then we have the other faction that are the skeptic. People that they believe if you will use AI, you will become silly, lobotomized, you are not able to do nothing, all the work will be taken away from robots. I stay in as an engineer in the data factual part of the equation. What I am observing are a lot of research lately that are trying to understand where AI, the actual AI that we have, so the LLM modem that is with a heuristic to predict the nearby token in the sentence, what is good for. And from the data that we have, for sure, AI dealing with natural language communication is pretty good, is accurate enough to have a sort of conversation to help people to get more horizon on their thought process. So what we have observed is that if you pair AI with a team that is doing pair programming or mob programming, absolutely the dynamics of communication during the code session are different, with a lot more options. But if you start to instead to go on other kind of topics like code generated, indeed the code is sloppy. It's a kind of code that is too much mechanic, doesn't have the enough engineering and craftsmanship that it should be, and can take out some chores, but not creating for sure enterprise applications. Who tried have typically went in bankrupt, like Klarna or other companies, or roll back on their decision to rehire people, and so to be with an hybrid model that seems that is working, that is helping individuals to adopt AI as a human enhancement. So it's a tool like a exoskeleton that helps you to run faster, longer with heavy weights and this kind of stuff. But AI per se cannot do it without you. So this is the point that we have observed through data so far. What it will be the future, as you know, I am passionate of behavioral science and neuroscience. I don't see neuroscience yet able to understand how our brain is working. Otherwise, nobody will suffer of depression, dementia, Alzheimer, and autism, for instance. We have this sickness, so most probably we are not there to being able to create an algorithm that is replicating our thought process. And so AI is indeed something that is capable to help us to remove the chores and the tools, so to get a lot of more time where we can be creative and boosting the mind potential we have. The real question, and this is something intriguing to me, how people like us, I'm 50 plus, you are 34, but the science says that after 35, you start to have more difficulties to do a change in the way you are working. People in our age will cope with this transition. For sure, our kids, they will have a different kind of challenges embracing AI to don't misuse and die. But us, this is the stuff that as a CEO and for me as also as a coach is the most puzzling question so far, because I guess nobody of us has a reply to help our people to embrace AI in the right way, without being scared, without being addicted, with a balance. balance probably is the best word.
Yeah. What I'm as well curious to see is how AI will, let's say, disrupt some markets. What I mean by that is I completely agree with your observation that enterprise applications are very unlikely to be fully built by AI. I think we are aligned on that. However, there are some AI technologies. I can think of 𝗛𝗲𝗱, for instance, that are very powerful to build POCs, MVPs. And what I'm curious to see is I'm sure there will be a lot of smart individuals, and it's already happening right now, that will build very fast application in a certain and modern ways, will grasp some part of the market, and will then develop their potentially custom software further down the line. So I think that's where in the market there could be some changes, and it can create volatilities. That's why larger businesses have to stay aware.
Yes, you have touched the topic that I love the most lately. So as a old guy that was doing agile since the early 2000s, if there is something that IT and software especially failed miserably in the agile adoption was the product management. With product management, what I want to say is if you go Scrum or Safe, you have this kind of product manager, product owners, people that should be able to speak the voice of the customer. But we have to be honest, how many backlogs were proper one to move from the customer need to an idea and to then a product that is shipped in production? Only a few. With AI, absolutely techniques like Lean UX to put the user at the center of the creation of the new product or service, with vibe coding to create fast prototypes, not anymore only on the paper, but also something that is really usable and lets you to perceive the look and feel and the user experience. They will be a deal breaker for a lot of companies that they are not able to have a proper product management. As usual, looking at the market, social patterns, if they will embrace it as a tool, they will fail again. But if they will embrace using AI to enhance the product management, keeping the user at the center of the equation, and then with the team of designer and researcher, creating the perfect user experience, then with techniques like event storming and Lean UX, we can arrive very, very fast to prototypes that then the development team can take over and finally create the proper production code in the right way. This is absolutely what I observe as well. Yes.
I agree with that very much. And to be honest, I would have loved that those products were there a couple of years ago. I haven't mentioned that earlier, but the company is trying to evolve since 2020. We have a large flagship product, which is a localization software for marketplaces. And over the past few years, we have been trying new models, very various models. We tried a logistics product, we tried a distribution product, we tried advertising product, and the way how we did that was very top down. Let's say we believe that this product can work. Hey, let's go and implement it. We spend a couple €100,000 or a couple million euros in some project, and 1 or 2 years further down the line, we realized there is no market fit, and we lost time, we lost money, we learned, of course. But with those technologies, we would have been able to spend less and to get the learnings much, much faster.
Yes, I totally agree with you, Adrien. If there is a painful stuff that I learn working with large corporation and also with startups, is that the discovery of the right product is the most painful. Because if we do it improperly, we came out with a great idea that everybody believes, but nobody purchases. It's like selling ice creams at the Pole North. Who will buy an ice cream in Alaska? But if you have the same ice cream and you go in the Sahara Desert, probably you will have a long queue despite there is not that much density of population. So it's something that the market did a lot of research about this, because there are a lot of research around the topic of lean UX or design sprints, paper prototyping, but not everybody is using them. And this intriguing aspect. Now with AI, I hope to see more companies adopting what we do in our dojo for product management with paper prototyping, helping people to have not only a paper prototype, but from the prototype, in a snap of a finger, having a working software as a prototype that is created with vibe coding from the product design team. And in this way, you can imagine the amount of money that you can save in the startup phase when you are a pre-seed, for instance. You finally can have an idea that is confirmed, that you have a alpha customers pool base there because they have tested the product with you and they are ready to purchase it. So this could be a game changer for a venture studio, for instance, or for organization that they have a great idea and then they want to spin off a new branch of the company with a new product. But I don't know when we will start to see some product like this on the market.
Indeed. And as well, I would say, leaders have to be more sometimes rigorous in the management, because the frameworks is one thing, and it's always interesting to see all those LinkedIn posts around around the most brilliant recent framework. But in real life, there is pressure for investors. There is pressure from the market. Applying those frameworks takes a lot of time. And if you fail the opportunity, you might be wrong on your time to market and so lose the opportunity. So it's really a complicated, I would say, equation between doing and applying all those frameworks together with coping with the pressure I just mentioned. And probably those tools will be able to help find the right balance in between.
Yes. Also, another stuff that I learned pretty well in the domain of Formula One and MotoGP is tools are objects. And without the right way of using them, you will end up to use typically the tool that you like the most. So there is a prank that typically mechanics they are doing about each other. If you go in the high-performing racing motorsport division, you see mechanics that they are dressed almost like surgeon doctors. You don't see oil spill left and right in the workshop. But instead, if you go in a normal mechanic on the road to do the service of your car, you see a stain of oil everywhere. And if you look at their toolbox, the most used tool is the hammer or the mallet. So you can understand that despite they have a gigantic toolbox full of tools, they use only the one that they love the most. Most probably because who does the service on a normal sedan is a rusty car, so they need to use a lot of oil and hammer. And instead, if you are doing motorsport, you are working with a lot more clean and ready to assemble and disassemble engine components. Despite that, they are in the same field, but their behavior are totally different. It's because of the customer, it's because of their culture. I don't know, could be something in the middle, but absolutely tools, they need also a thoughtful leadership that is able with critical thinking to help people like you have done in WebInterpret to deal with the trauma of until yesterday wasn't AI, today is AI, and we should use it to boost our productivity, do less stressful work or repetitive work so that we can do the stuff that we love the most. It's a challenge that the market seems not able to serve with objectiveness so far.
Yep, I agree with your statement so far.
And how do you deal with these uncertainties as a CEO? Do you accept it? Do you have something that is your secret weapon to deal with it?
The uncertainties around the market.
The market and the future. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So in the way of managing the business, like I said earlier, we know that the market is volatile, right? In technologies in general. And with those new technologies, we know as well, and we see that it's becoming even more volatile than it used to be. So taking the example of our localization slash translation software, technically the translation per se today is almost a commodity. So we have to be very strong in the connectors, in the integrations we have with our marketplace partners to generate value for sellers. So due to this volatility, it forces us to innovate constantly by adapting our technology and by launching new products. And in the way how we manage the company, we have a bucket of investment allocated for our R&D that is quite significant for our size. And every year we are spending money in researching new product, investing in new product. Some work, many do not work, and we are fine with it. We accept it. It's part of the journey. It's part of the process. And when it don't work, we trash it. We sunset it in order to invest and focus on the product that do work. So really for us, the recipe is being aware that the market is volatile and our product is constantly being challenged by competitors. And the response to that is keep investing in the right people, keep investing in new products, be okay with failing so that ultimately a new successful product may arise. And a great example of it is we come from localization. And right now we are becoming quite successful in the compliance market. We have developed a compliance software to help online merchants make their listing and their product compliant in selling into the European Union. When you look at it, you might think, what's the link in a way, right? And again, like I said earlier, we are not afraid to venture into new industries and again, to recruit the right people. So we are surrounded by the right skill set, invest in front of it and develop new products. And when it works, we try to go as far as we can.
I like the picture that you just described, where innovation is part of the daily life of the company. This is indeed another trait that we saw only in a company that are growing as high performers. A lot of companies, they don't have this. They have the hackathons, maybe they have R&D departments, but then the normal labor force is not facing daily innovation challenges. And so they have always to challenge their way of working, and they have always to chase the digital disruption. What you just described echoes in my mind the book from Daniel Burrus, Anticipatory Organizations. And the idea is the company, your company, should be always innovating, because if we don't innovate in a short amount of time, we have to chase others that are innovating. And so to survive of the market volatility, we need to chase the digital disruption instead of creating it. The formula indeed was you should innovate every day as a normal part of your daily working agenda. A lot of CEO, they are not in comfort with this. You are, and is one of the strengths of your company.
No, I just would like to say that I think it depends what sort of leadership you are placing in a company. I like to make a differentiation between professional CEOs. I'm not sure if it's correct in English, and entrepreneurs in a way, or let's say CEOs with an entrepreneurial mindset. If you want your company to go through transformations, I genuinely believe that you need to have people with the entrepreneurial mindset, which are generally don't have an issue to fail. don't have an issue with venturing into something new, and don't see the company as an asset to manage, but see the company as, an entity with a product, with people, with clients, and trying to find the best way to serve all the people that interact with the company. So that entrepreneurial mindset, and again, that innovation DNA, which comes from investor boards, way up to people, way up to leadership, is quite key.
Yes. And what I discovered doing all these interviews and research is that the successful company, they have a key differentiator. They understood that their success is based on their customers, because without customer, there is no revenue stream. So the recipe is pretty simple. You have to please your customers. And to do that, you need to listen to them. You need to be able to understand and anticipate their shift in behavior. So until 2 years ago, the customer, they were not facing AI, for instance. Today, everybody is facing AI everywhere. If you don't embrace this behavioral change on your user base, then they will move slowly to a competitor that is providing them the new commodity their behavior is looking for. To do that, you need to innovate. Now, the question that I was keeping in my buffer for you is, how do you share this culture of constant innovation in your company? So everybody is authorized to use part of their time to innovate. It's a natural thing, innovating. You have a standard 20%, for instance, time you need to do R&D, because there are different models here, and I would like to understand which is yours.
Few aspects to it. Yes, there is some time, let's say, allocated for innovation. Yesterday, we reviewed our roadmap. There are so-called spikes to review some ideas. There is some space to test things around. So, yes, we let people some time to think. That is one thing. The second element is we sometimes do hackathons or innovation days where we take the company for 1 or 2 days. We did it last year, and for within 48 hours, we create groups, and these groups within 48 hours have to crunch a problem. The groups involve a salesperson, a UX person, a product person, a developer, and other stakeholders, so they can, within that time, test the product. It's not so much about the output. It's about injecting the procedures and the ways of working around innovation. So we create as well such a space in the company. And then I am genuinely an innovator. I'm focusing always on new things, new ideas and testings, and I work very closely with many people in our leadership. So by sparring together, it creates in a way that culture indirectly, because we sort of constantly, let's say, look for new ideas, new ways of working, etc. So yeah, some space allocated, some events from time to time, and really the day-to-day. And that's how it becomes very natural for people.
I love the social aspect that you are describing as the common root of all this innovation. Today, I will reveal also my recipe so that we are exploiting it. What I do, because I am a believer and a lover of OKRs, every quarter I put a key result in my OKRs typically, where I want to test some new user behavior with some shift in the organization to understand in a quarter how can we try to achieve as high as possible to this key result. I have to say that in this way, I start to see a lot of stuff happening in a so natural way that we don't have to plan anything anymore. So it's a superpower when you start to put innovation inside the key result that you want to change in the organization. And with AI, for instance, you have a behavioral change that you need to embrace. So you need to embrace the AI tooling or the AI chores or the AI assistant, whatever you want to call it. So this is what in a lot of startups and big organizations, I see that is finally crossing the boardroom and moving to the team as a natural inclination. Okay, we need to do that because there is a goal now. I love what is coming out of this chit chat, Adrienne. Unfortunately, I see the time is passing too fast.
Indeed.
That is a good sign that we had a good chat. To close the session, I would love to think about what we have discussed so far. So, is there anything else that you feel we have left in this discussion? Or do you have any suggestion that you want to share with our listeners?
No, I think we went through everything. Just wanted to thank you, Michele, for the invitation. I like speaking with passionate people such as yourself and competent people. So thanks for inviting me today once again.
Thank you, Adrian. It was a pleasure. I love to speak with CEO that they have an open mind and that they have tried to challenge the status quo of software industry, and they succeed because they didn't stick to the commercial hype. So it was a pleasure to have you here to listen to your story. And
likewise.
Thank you. And I hope to see you soon in the French soil and to continue our discussion face to face.
Thank you, Michele.
Listener, thank you. I hope that you have enjoyed the episode. I guess we have a deep dive in a lot of nitty-gritty details about how a CEO can evolve a company toward a high-performance organization. And please remember to subscribe and smash down below your comment and share with all your friends so that more organizations they can emulate what Adrienne did and is doing with WebInterpret. Adrienne, thank you so much again, and see you soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening, and please remember to subscribe to the Forge of Unicorns to stay up to date with our latest episodes.